A federal judge in North Carolina is rejecting an effort to clean up over 200,000 problematic registrations of prospective voters on the rolls there. And this is a pattern we've seen before happening many places throughout this country, where we've got a situation where the RNC and the North Carolina Republican Party are suing the state boards, right? The laws say you're supposed to do certain things in order to ensure the integrity of the election, and the state boards are not doing those things. In this case, checking to make sure that IDs match the citizen. So what happens then is the Democrats intervene. They're the intervener defendants. They come crashing in here and they say, wait a minute, we love these rules as they are. In fact, that's why we have them, because they support us massively. And there's a lawsuit that happens here. And in this case, the Eastern District of North Carolina has declared the victors to be the Democrats. Here's what the judge says. Says, the way this started is what happened is the Republicans sued in North Carolina, sued August 23rd, 2024. It's happening pretty recently. And this is going to be a big part of the response is they're saying, no, you can't. You're suing way too late. The election's like right around the corner. It's August 3rd, 23rd. And the response to that is they just started breaking the rules. Okay, we just started seeing them not implement this stuff. We're just catching these problems as the election is happening. So the complaint now from the Republicans says that the Democrats and the state election board violated state law. It requires North Carolina and the Board of Elections to comply with the Help America Vote Act. Now, one relevant provision of HAVA, okay, so state law says you got to comply with federal law. One relevant component of HAVA obligates states. So the state elections now have to get, in connection with the voter's registration, so if you're going to register, either a driver's license number or the last four digits of a social security number, or an affirmation that the applicant has neither, right? So get one of those things. Register to vote, driver's license number, presumably citizenship is being checked before you get one of those there, or last four digits of social, which means you've got citizenship. Now, notwithstanding HAVA's dictates, so that's the law, Republicans say that the state election board and their voter registration form, so when a bunch of people are registering to vote, it made optional the fields on the form where the applicants would provide either their driver's license number or the last four digits of their social. So now someone discovers, oh, when I can register, I don't even have to fill that out. I can just go online or whatever and just fill it in. Or wait a minute, if I hand write it in, I don't have to fill that out. The complaint alleges that as a result of this and the system, applicants would have no way to know from the form that the driver's license number or the social security number were required for their form to be accepted and processed. Now, a concerned citizen realized this flaw in the form and filed a complaint. According to the complaint, the government acknowledged that the registration form did create the risk of these HAVA violations. They modified the form prospectively so that it would actually comply with federal law, right? So they go, oh, oops. Oh, weird. Yeah, oh, no. We better fix that. But we said, okay, how many people have used that bad form that just filled it out and got registered without matching their numbers? No. Can you go identify those? Can you identify and contact the voters whose registrations were improperly accepted? You want to go find them for us? No. They said no. The government alleged, and their alleged noncompliance with HAVA has resulted in the NCSB accepting, they say, hundreds of thousands of voter registration applications without applying the HAVA information requirement, meaning hundreds of thousands not checked. Citing concerns about the potential for voter fraud and vote dilution, then the Republicans brought this lawsuit, raising two claims. First, they say, hey, state law says it requires the government, the states, to maintain its voter registration list and under the requirements of HAVA. The law says you got to comply, so comply. Second, they raise a direct claim under the Constitution of North Carolina, saying that they took actions directly to interfere with North Carolina's fundamental right to vote. And so they seek a court order that remedy their noncompliance. They need to remove ineligible voters from the lists. or require voters who did not provide their ID at the time of their application to cast a provisional ballot. Like they can go back and see, right, who filled it out appropriately or not. Now, while this action was pending in state court, guess what? Democrats came crashing their clown car into this. Oh, no, there's a bunch of our voters on there. So they intervened. Approximately 2 weeks later, they moved this action to federal court. Then the feds and the North Carolina State Conference of the NAACP and others intervened. And so now the RNC wants to go back to state court. They say this is ridiculous. Why are we in federal court? There's no federal question here. They say removal was improper. And so we should go back down to state court. So now they're going to talk about the jurisdiction of the federal court. And the judge is going to, of course, say, I've got jurisdiction. So we'll skip some of that boring stuff, which is about removal. And there's a lot there. All right. Private right of action. All right. Let's go. So we'll continue forward and let's see where this judge gets into, well, a lot of this. And here we go. Federal question stuff. Wow, it's a lot of this. All right. So let's just fast forward a little bit. Didn't realize there would be this much on this. We want to get to some of the substance past the removal stuff. Let's see where we're at. Federal state balance. Is this whole thing on this? All right. So here we're down now to the motion to dismiss. All right. So the government is now trying to dismiss this. Now, although this private cause of action turns to a separate body of law, yeah, they're saying it does not expressly provide for a private cause of action. And so under North Carolina law, implied rights of action are disfavored and will not be found in the absence of clear legislative intent. And so the court further finds that their styling of count one, so we saw what their two claims were, one under the Constitution, and here they're seeking a writ of mandamus, cannot save this. A writ of mandamus, we're not going to force them to do this. So plaintiffs make two arguments, neither is availing. They say that you can order them to do something here and to clean up these rolls. But the question presented in that case is whether they suffered an injury in fact. Count one does not meet that prong, and it doesn't reach the merits. In essence, in the absence of any indication that North Carolina's General Assembly allowed you to bring a claim under that, I don't see it. Your motion to dismiss is granted. Okay, so the government wins. Count one is dismissed. It's really a standing issue. You had no right to come and sue under this claim to force them to make any changes here. So now they also move to dismiss count two. This was the claim brought under the Constitution. It's the only remaining claim because the others have been dumped. The claim raises a novel issue under North Carolina constitutional law. The court further finds compelling federalism reasons for declining to exercise jurisdiction over that count. And so that one looks like it is going back down. So accordingly, the court declines to exercise jurisdiction over count two, remands that back down because it's a state constitution claim. And so here, let's see how the judge concludes this out. Says the emergency motion to remand is denied from the RNC. So it's not going back in its entirety. The government motion to dismiss is granted in part. Count one is dismissed, not coming back. But the court does remand count two to state court. And it stayed until October 22nd so that the parties may seek an appeal if they so choose. And they probably will. So that this thing is delayed until after the election. So we're guessing that those voter rolls will not be cleaned up. Obviously, the election is about to be underway, if it's not already underway, in North Carolina. But the reason we're sharing this is just to show you essentially what these claims are and what's happening. The claim was even acknowledged. Okay, they filed a complaint. They said, hey, they're accepting a bunch of people in, and the government acknowledged it. They said, we decline to identify and contact the voters whose registrations were improperly accepted. And the court is allowing that to happen. So when they say it's the safest, most secure election ever, there's 225,000 people here that we don't know anything about, or we know a little bit about, but not enough about. There's 110,000 in Arizona, and the list goes on and on. So Democrats win again. They really like as much mess as you can have in an election. They don't really want to check IDs. They really want drop boxes all over the place. Everybody can have multiple ballots, whatever you want. It's total bedlam, including 225,000 people who are on ballots who probably shouldn't be on ballots. Now, Congressman Gates is introducing some legislation to address some of this. He says, in response to DOJ suing Virginia because they want illegal aliens on their voter rolls too, and we read that case. We covered that indictment or the claim by the DOJ. He is now opening up new legislation. Here's what it looks like from Matt Gaetz. He says, here's what we do. We would amend the National Voter Registration Act. This act may be cited as the National Voter Clarification Act. It would make some changes. It would strike some things out. And that's a very technical brief. But he says, if enacted, it would amend Title 52 to clarify federal law to ensure that states are clearly allowed to remove voters who are ineligible due to citizenship status from their voting rolls within the 90-day window. And that's obviously something that should happen, right? I can't even imagine how our secretaries of state and the election boards and all these people who are failing to maintain the lists and the rolls, how they can or will actually stand up with a straight face and tell us that everything is operating as it should and we are operating in a free and fair election when the lists themselves are problematic. We'll see if they respond to this. Thanks for subscribing as the coverage continues. All right.